At first it did so politely, the way a courteous person clears their throat before speaking. The chair by the window shifted a fraction of an inch, the faint rasp of wood against floor lost beneath the house's constant breathing, the low, mineral hum that lived in the walls. She noticed only because she had been watching the dust in a shaft of late light, how it thickened and thinned as clouds crossed the sun. The chair's back interrupted the beam differently than before. A small discrepancy, a trick of attention. She told herself this room had angles that lied. Old houses did that. They trained your eyes into bad habits. She stayed still, palms flat on the table, and waited for the floorboards to cool again. They had warmed beneath her feet since she entered, a shy warmth that faded if she thought about it. The table smelled faintly of oil and lemon, though she could not remember polishing it. The couch opposite her held the day's imprint, a hollow where someone had sat earlier. No, where she had sat earlier. She hadn't moved since standing. She counted her breaths. With each exhale, the room seemed to listen. When she looked again, the chair was closer to the window. Not dragged, not pushed. It had simply settled, as if it had always been there and she had misremembered. She stood. The sound of her feet was swallowed quickly, like speech in a library. The walls seemed to thicken. She crossed to the window and put a hand on the chair's back. It was cold, reassuringly solid. The view outside was unchanged. The same hedges, the same sky, the same absence of movement. Her reflection hovered over the glass, a ghost stitched to the day. Behind her, something tapped. She turned. The lamp on the side table had rotated, its shade now angled toward the couch. The cord lay in a slightly different curve, as if it had been breathed upon. The side table itself, no. She shook her head. It hadn't moved. She was inventing patterns. She sat, slowly, testing the couch. The hollow accepted her, remembered her weight. The air tasted faintly of old paper. She thought of the house as a throat, the room as a mouth holding her words before she spoke them. Time passed without changing shape. The light dimmed by degrees. The house made its sounds. The click of cooling, the small wet noise of pipes. She relaxed, then caught herself relaxing and stiffened again. The bookshelf crept. It was not the whole thing, just the leftmost shelf, the one with the dictionary and the thin books she'd never read. The spines had leaned together, touching now, as if in confidence. The shelf's shadow widened, a bruise on the wall. She stood again, pulse loud in her ears. "No," she said, and the room took the word into itself. She approached the shelf. The books were warm. The wall behind them was warm. She pressed her palm there and felt the faintest give, like skin yielding to pressure. She snatched her hand back, heart stuttering. The warmth receded, offended. The chair by the window had turned. Its seat faced the center of the room now, as if to watch. She backed toward the door. It was where it had been. The knob was cool. She did not turn it yet. She wanted proof. She wanted the room to betray itself clearly. The coffee table slid a finger's width closer to her knee. She felt the change as much as saw it, a tug in the space between objects. The rug beneath it puckered, then smoothed. The table's surface reflected the lamp's light at a new angle. A constellation rearranged. She stepped away and the table followed, not touching, maintaining distance like a careful dance partner. She laughed once, too loud, and the sound came back smaller, pressed flat. The couch exhaled. Its cushions rose and fell. The arm nearest the door inched outward, claiming territory. The room was becoming economical, trimming unnecessary space. She realized then that the furniture was not moving toward her. It was moving toward each other. She squeezed between the couch and the bookshelf. The gap had narrowed. Her shoulder brushed the spines. A book slid free and thumped to the floor, pages fanning open to a definition she did not read. The shelf leaned, a patient inclination. She tried the door. It opened a hand's breadth and stopped, blocked by the chair she had not seen move. Its legs were braced, stubborn. She pushed harder. The chair did not scrape or tip. It held as if bolted. Her breath came shallow. The room smelled of dust and varnish and something older, damp. The lamp flickered, then steadied, casting shadows that did not quite align with their objects. The table's shadow bent toward the couch. The couch's shadow reached for the shelf. "Stop!" she whispered. The whisper was absorbed. The hum deepened, pleased. The furniture began to reconfigure with purpose. The coffee table rose a fraction, then settled atop the rug's edge, tilting until one leg touched the couch, then another. The side table crept closer to the bookshelf, forming a right angle. The lamp leaned inward, a spotlight narrowing. She pressed her back to the door and slid down, knees drawn up. The space between her and the objects shrank, but not evenly. The room pinched at her ankles, her shoulders, leaving her face in a pocket of air. The air grew warm and tasted of old breath. She noticed then the ceiling. It had lowered, not enough to strike her, just enough to be felt. The corners sagged, rounding. The walls leaned, not toward her but toward a shared center that was not where she sat. The bookshelf completed its slow fall, resting against the couch with a soft, intimate thud. Book side. The chair by the window rolled forward, its back kissing the table's edge. The window itself dimmed, glass clouding as if a fog had crept between panes. Her reflection blurred, then split, then vanished. She reached out and touched the table. It was no longer cold, pulsed faintly. She pulled her hand back and found that the space she had withdrawn into was smaller than before. The room was subtracting the gesture. The door behind her warmed. The knob softened under her fingers, losing definition. She did not scream. The idea of sound felt wrong, like shouting into a mouth. The furniture settled into a configuration that felt complete. A ring, a nest, a mouth closing. There was no obvious place for her now. The pocket of air thinned. She could feel the object's attention, a pressure like hands without fingers. Somewhere something clicked, satisfied. In the last sliver of space, as the lamp's shade brushed her hair and the table's edge pressed into her ribs, she saw the chair by the window turn one final time, aligning itself with a gap that was not there before, as if waiting for someone who had always belonged in the room to arrive. At first she thought it was a trick of timing, the sort of delay you notice only when you're tired enough to doubt your own senses. The bathroom light flickered with a low electrical whine, the bulb struggling against age or dampness, and the mirror's surface shimmered faintly, as if heat were rising from it. She stood very still, hands braced on the porcelain sink, and watched her own face breathe. The room was quiet in the way rooms become quiet late at night, not silent but padded. Pipes clicked somewhere in the walls. The fan in the ceiling hummed unevenly, its rhythm slightly off, like a heartbeat skipping when you paid attention to it. The tile floor held a chill that seeped up through the soles of her feet. She leaned closer to the mirror. Her reflection leaned with her. Their noses nearly touched the glass. "Get a grip," she murmured. Her mouth moved. The reflection's mouth moved too, but not quite the same way. Its lips formed a word with a softer ending, the corners pulling down instead of flattening. She frowned, trying to replay what she had just seen. When she spoke again, carefully this time, shaping each syllable, the reflection followed perfectly. She straightened, a thin line of unease tracing her spine. The mirror had always been old. The silver backing was spotted near the edges, the glass faintly warped. Straight lines bent if you stared too long. Faces softened or sharpened depending on where you stood. It had done this for years without incident. She turned her head to the side. The reflection mirrored her. She raised her hand. It raised its hand. The light flickered again, dipping low enough that her reflection's eyes seemed to darken completely before the brightness returned. For a moment, the room smelled faintly metallic, like rain on old coins. She exhaled and rubbed her face. When she looked back up, her reflection was already watching her. That was the second discrepancy. Not movement exactly, more a difference in attention. Her eyes were still lowered, lashes casting shadows on her cheeks. The reflection's gaze was fixed forward, unblinking. Her pulse picked up. She lifted her head slowly. The reflection adjusted a fraction of a second later, as if catching up. "You're imagining this," she said, the words sounding thin in the small room. The reflection smiled. She did not. The smile was subtle, more tension than expression, but it pulled at her reflection's face in a way that felt wrong, like someone else tugging at familiar muscles. The teeth showed a moment too long. The eyes narrowed with intent. The fan's hum deepened. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, reminding her of winter air leaking through a cracked window. She took a step back. The reflection did not. Instead, it leaned forward, pressing closer to the glass. Its breath fogged the surface from the other side, a pale bloom that spread outward and then faded. Her own breath had not fogged anything. She felt suddenly very aware of being seen, not just watched, but studied. The reflection's eyes moved over her face with small, deliberate shifts, cataloging details she had stopped noticing years ago. The faint scar near her eyebrow, the unevenness of her lips, the tired set of her jaw. "Stop," she whispered. Her reflection mouthed a word. She shook her head sharply, breaking eye contact, and looked down at the sink. The porcelain was crazed with fine cracks, stained near the drain. A drop of water fell from the faucet and echoed too loudly. Her hands were trembling. When she looked up again, the reflection's mouth was still moving. No sound accompanied it. The lips shaped syllables with care, repeating them, slower now, as if she were meant to read them. "Come closer." The words formed clearly, unmistakably. Her stomach clenched. She took another step back, until her shoulders brushed the cool wall behind her. The mirror felt farther away than it should have, as if the room had stretched. The reflection's brow furrowed, tilted its head, studying her reaction. Its movements were smooth, confident, not bound by the hesitation that had crept into her own body. She realized then that the reflection was not copying her anymore. It was responding. The light flickered harder this time, plunging the bathroom into a dim, amber gloom. Shadows pooled in the corners. The mirror darkened, the silver backing swallowing detail until her reflection appeared deeper, set farther back than the wall allowed, as if the glass were a window into a longer room. The reflection lifted a hand. She did not. Its fingers pressed flat against the inside of the mirror. Where they touched, the glass bowed inward slightly, like skin yielding to pressure. She gasped and the sound seemed to vanish before it reached her ears. The fan stuttered and fell silent. The bathroom became oppressively still. The reflection mouthed another sentence. "You're thinner here." She felt the truth of it in her bones. The reflection's face looked sharper now, cheekbones more pronounced, eyes too large. It looked like her after something had been taken away. "What are you?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer would not help. The reflection's smile returned, slower this time. The light steadied. The room warmed by a degree or two, just enough to feel like relief. The mirror's surface hardened again, perfectly flat, perfectly reflective. Her reflection stood as it always had, matching her posture, her expression, wide-eyed, pale, afraid. She laughed weakly, the sound brittle. "I need sleep," she said. "That's all." She reached for the light switch. Her reflection's hand dropped out of sync, lowering before hers, fingers curling as if to grasp something unseen. The reflection mouthed one last thing, its eyes never leaving hers. "Don't turn away." The bulb clicked off. In the darkness, with the mirror now a black, depthless plane, she felt movement. Not in the room, but behind the glass, where something familiar shifted closer, patiently waiting for her eyes to adjust.